She was sliced in half, rained of blood. Her face carved into a grotesque smile and left in the middle of a Los Angeles neighborhood like a display piece from a nightmare. This is the story of the Black Dahlia Mets, one of the most disturbing and unsolved murder cases in American history. In January 1947, a woman was walking with her daughter when she saw something she thought was a doll. But when she got closer, she was shocked to discover the body of a 22-year-old woman who had been brutally murdered in a way that would continue to terrorize Los Angeles forever. The victim's real name is Elizabeth Short. Elizabeth Short was a beautiful and ambitious actress who dreamed of fame and becoming a star. But what she didn't know was that her dream would come true. But after her death, Elizabeth Short, born on July 29, 1924 in Boston, Massachusetts, she was later dubbed the Black Dahlia by the press because of her wearing black clothes and because of the movie The Blue Dahlia, which was released 1 year before her murder. She lived in a Boston suburb with her parents and 4 sisters. When she was 6 years old, the family was hit by a financial crisis after the 1929 stock market crash. Her father mysteriously disappeared, and his car was later found abandoned near the Charlestown Bridge, where he is believed to have committed suicide. When she was 16 years old, when she had respiratory issues and doctors thought that a milder climate would help improve her health, the doctors recommended that she travel to a place where the climate was warmer, so she spent winters in Florida with family friends. Before her death, Elizabeth Short lived in various places around the city. In the early 1940s, she moved to California in search of fame in the movie industry. She worked simple jobs, waitress, saleswoman, but never realized her dream of acting. She was engaged to a soldier named Major Matthew Gordon, but he was killed during World War II before he married her. By 1946 and early 1947, her life was very turbulent. She had no steady job or stable home. She was last seen on January 9, 1047, with an unknown man at the Biltmore Hotel in downtown Los Angeles. After that, she disappeared completely, until her body was found on January 15, 1947, in an empty plot of land in Los Angeles. The scene was shocking. The body was cut in half from the waist in a very precise manner, similar to surgical operations, completely devoid of blood, indicating that the murder was carried out in another place, and the body was moved later. Her face was distorted, with 2 religious lines from the corners of the mouth to the ears. The body was placed in a strange way, the hands raised up above the head, as if the killer wanted to display it. Police faced one of the most complex cases in US history. The press was heavily involved, publishing photos and information quickly, confusing the investigation. Hundreds of people were questioned, but the evidence was scant, and because of the precise method of cutting, investigators thought the killer might be a surgeon. Days after the murder, the police received signed letters from someone claiming to be the killer. The letters included personal items belonging to Elizabeth Short, a photo address book. The letters were written with scraps of paper from newspapers, so that the police would not recognize the killer by his handwriting, and all items were soaked in gasoline to remove fingerprints. This added to the mystery and strangeness of the crime, as if the killer was challenging the police. Mark Hansen, the owner of a nightclub where Elizabeth Short went, was one of the last people Elizabeth had contact with. Leslie Dillon. He wrote about the crime in such detail that he raised suspicion because of the amount of information he provided about the crime, as well as several other suspects. But the most mysterious and suspicious suspect believed to be the killer was Franz George Hodel, a doctor in Los Angeles with a bad reputation, molestation cases, and family scandals. His house had an operating room, which made him a strong suspect. George Hill Hodel, born in 1907 in Los Angeles, was a successful doctor specializing in reproductive diseases, known for his sharp intelligence, but he was also a controversial figure who lived a life full of scandals and mysterious relationships. He had extensive social relations with Hollywood stars, artists, and celebrity. Because of his great medical expertise, because the investigation showed that the killer had accurate knowledge of anatomy and surgery, as Elizabeth's body was cut in half using advanced surgical technology, as he lived in a mansion in an area not far from where the body was found, where he was accused in 1949 of molesting his daughter Tama Hodel, where he was tried but was acquitted due to insufficient evidence. The LAPD placed secret listening devices in George Hodel's home. The recordings revealed strange conversations, including his saying, "Supposing I did kill the Black Dahlia, they can't prove it down." Also, he was heard talking about illegal abortions he performed and things suggesting corruption and illicit relationships, which increased the possibility that he was the killer. But despite the strength of suspicion, he was not officially charged. All the detectives who investigated George Hodel felt that George Hodel was the real killer, but one of the most prominent detectives who was about to prove that George Hodel was the killer was his name Steve, but he did not investigate the crime until after his retirement because he was not allowed to investigate the crime. Although he was assigned to investigate 300 murders during his career, he had to wait until he retired to investigate the Black Dahlia crime. And this detective is sure that George Hodel is the Black Dahlia killer. Despite his intelligence and ability, he was not allowed to investigate this case because the first suspect, George Hodel, is the father of Detective Steve Hodel. After his father's death, he went to his father's house behind pictures of a woman he suspected might be the Black Dahlia, as he was seen several times entering the hotels with the Black Dahlia. Detective Steve discovered 3 weeks after the death of the Black Dahlia a second body of a girl named Jane French, who was killed in the same way as the Black Dahlia. And after Jane French's death, the killer sent letters to the police, but this time the letters were in the handwriting of the killer. So Steve, with the help of experts, matched George Hodel's handwriting with the killer's handwriting in letters that reached the police. They found that there was a strong match between the two handwriting. In 2012, Detective Steve Hodel went to his father's house and took with him a policeman from his companions and a cadaver dog that smells the smell of human decomposition, and they started wandering around the house. But there was a place in the house where the dog started barking, which is the back alley of the mansion, where there was a place with soil. So they took a sample of the soil and analyzed it in the laboratory, where they found traces of human decomposition, but they could not confirm the matter because a very long time had passed. In 1950, after the suspicions about George Hodel increased, especially after the case of his molestation of his daughter Tama Hodel, he went to the Philippines, where he was placed under surveillance by the police in 1949 due to his great association with the Black Dahlia case. And in 1967, in the Philippine city of Manila, another woman named Lucilla Lalo was found murdered in the same way that the Black Dahlia was killed. She was dismembered and drained of her blood, and parts of her body were found in a garbage container that was close to the body. And strangely, the distance between the body and George Hodel's house was only half a mile, which increases the evidence that George Hodel is the killer. In addition, on the morning of January 15, 1947, the day the Black Dahlia's body was found, witnesses ate that they saw a black Packard car parked near the place where they found the body of the Black Dahlia. This raised the suspicion of the police, as George Hodel owns a car of the same color and the same specifications, but at that time George Hodel was not suspected, as he was not included in the list of suspects. This information appeared later in the secret police files revealed by his son Steve Hodel after decades, as this information became part of the evidence that reinforced the suspicions about George Hodel. But strangely enough, Despite all the evidence against George Hodel, he has never been formally charged or prosecuted, and the Black Dahlia case remains a mystery in Los Angeles until now. Who do you think is the killer? Do you think George Hodel is the killer? Let us know what you think in the comments. And if you have any mysterious crimes you want me to talk about, let me know in the comments.